right.
I gotta get
Angela?
some glasses. These things just always go dark on me.
Yes, please.
So why'd you have on shades?
Because we have the
The
transition.
transition jet.
Everybody good?
Hey, Chris.
Hey, nice to see you. Good to see you. Hi, everybody. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Good.
Good morning, everybody. Although it's not a good morning when we're in a government shutdown, and Senate Republicans just voted again to keep the country shut down, the government shut down, and did Donald Trump's bidding in the process. I want to thank, and I know our entire delegation, thanks the federal employees of this country who work every day on behalf of the American people, delivering critical services. Let's give them all a big round of applause. They care for our veterans. They work to develop cures and treatments for diseases that impact every American family. They help keep our food safe. They respond to national disasters and emergencies. They help provide our kids with quality educations, and so much more. And they don't deserve to bear the brunt of this shutdown. They also recognize that it's the American people at the end of the day who will lose the most when the American people are deprived of the benefit of the services that these patriotic federal employees provide. This is also going to hurt federal contractors who help support the government mission in providing services throughout the country. And we're here to say that none of those individuals should bear the impact, nor should the American people. And I want to thank the Maryland congressional delegation. I want to thank this delegation for standing united and firm and strong to say, number one, we should not have shut the government down, and we want to reopen the government. We want to reopen the government without giving Donald Trump a blank check for his lawless activities. And we want to focus on what Donald Trump claimed he wanted to focus on starting on day one, which is bringing down prices and costs that are squeezing the American people, including the explosion in health care costs that is about to hit the American people. Because when Republicans and Donald Trump passed what they call the big beautiful bill, which was beautiful if you're a billionaire, but really stunk if you're anybody else, they made dramatic cuts to Medicaid and other health care programs. They also left in place a ticking time bomb that is going to result in huge premium increases for health care around the country. And I think it's worth remembering that they provided huge tax cut extensions for billionaires and very wealthy people. That's what they did in their bill. They provided huge tax cuts permanently for very rich people. But the tax cut, the tax benefit they allowed to lapse, was the one that helps more Americans afford health insurance. That's the tax cut they allowed to lapse. And so what we want is to move forward and reopen the government. No blank check for President Trump, but let's address some of these issues which he claimed he wanted to talk about. The other point I want to make is that you're losing when you're lying, and Republicans are lying. I just turned on my TV as I was coming over again. You saw the Speaker of the House again saying that what Democrats want to do is provide health care for people who are undocumented. That is a big lie. And you are losing when you're lying. And that is what they're doing. We not only want to reopen the government, we want to make sure that federal government employees and federal contractors do not bear the brunt of this shutdown. We want to provide them with relief. And I want to thank all my colleagues, and I know some of them will talk about the measures that we've introduced to do that. Today in Annapolis, Governor Moore cited some of the measures that he and his team are taking to do that. And in addition to the legislative efforts that we're undertaking, we are also going to be sending alerts and notices to the financial institutions around the country to ask for forbearance when it comes to loans to federal government employees and federal contractors, insist that utilities exercise forbearance on those bills for electricity or water or for broadband, because these federal employees are great patriots. And we all need to work together to make sure that individuals who have nothing to do with these political disputes are not having to really bear the brunt of it. And so we want to reopen the government. We also want to make sure that as we try to negotiate a resolution, that people are not hurt. And I will just end with this. It's really unfortunate that the House of Representatives is AWOL right now. Speaker of the House isn't even here. President Trump walked away from the negotiations originally, spent the weekend on the golf course, and then came back. And we saw how seriously he took this when he did that AI, deep AI fake. The president is not serious about resolving this issue. We are. And I want to thank my colleagues in the Maryland delegation for all their strength and purpose here. And with that, let me turn it over to Senator Alsobrooks, who came to the Senate at a very tough time and is working every day to try to make sure that we do right by our federal employees and by the people of this country. Senator Alsobrooks.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I'm sure that the brave and courageous federal workers who are standing with us today share my feelings when I say, generally I stand here and I say, I'm glad to be here today. And I have to tell you, I have felt so sad these last few days. This has been such a terrible time. And it's been terrible for so many of us. And I think what is saddest and most terrible is that this was completely foreseeable, that we would be where we are. I have been now in the Senate for these 9 months, and I have to tell you, virtually since the first day that we got here, it has been the intention of this administration to get to this day. It has been their design, one action after the next, to shut down this government. They have targeted federal employees. It has been despicable, the way that these patriots have been treated, the men and women of our government who have shown up, many of them for decades. They didn't care who the president was, whether it was a Democrat or a Republican. They have shown up nonetheless to serve the American people. And it was completely foreseeable that we would be exactly where we are, starting not only with this attack on our federal workforce that saw us fire, defame some of the most talented and committed individuals of our country, the ones who have protected us against unsafe foods, the ones who have been there to make sure that we were able to protect against hurricanes and other acts. These are the people who have made sure that people like my parents could get their Social Security checks. And we have called those people incompetent. And we have seen also at the highest levels of government, people say that they wanted the people of our government to suffer, to be traumatized when they came to work. And the actions of this government have continued day in and day out, not only an assault and an attack on the federal workforce, but on an attack on hard-working, middle-class individuals, families who have seen their health care insurance. This week they will learn the cost of health care insurance will have gone up by close to 20%. The big fat lie that was told that somehow our grocery prices would go down on day one, well, that never materialized. The fact that the cost of living, because of the cost of goods, these ridiculous tariffs have caused the cost of goods to go up. And so we knew that eventually we would get here when the Republicans shut down the government unless we voted, and I'm new around here, but if you put in front of me something that has the words continue in it, a continuing resolution, a continuation of the attack on the American people, and they would shut the government down unless we agreed to that, we all had to say the government, the Republicans shut down the government because we would not agree to continue this assault on the American people. There was no choice in this. And so this is their shutdown that they have overseen. Again, so carelessly done, they could care less about the hardworking people of our country, And add insult to injury is not just that our lives have not gotten better. I dare any one of them to tell us how it's gotten better. For whom has it gotten better? Day in and day out, it's gotten worse by the day. Not only are we seeing it more difficult and now nearly impossible for people to pay their bills, but they have also said that, if you speak out against it, that your First Amendment rights would be curtailed. I mean, it's just one assault after the next. And so this is their shutdown. This is their shutdown. And anyone who says anything different than that is dishonest. They have the keys to the kingdom, these people. They control not only the White House, but they have majorities in the House and in the Senate. And this is what they do with the power that they have. They do not know how to govern. And the result of it is that when they fail to govern and they have now wrecked our economy, the next action that they take is to shut down the government. So this is despicable. It is so shameful. It will tarnish and harm our country for generations to come, the actions that they have taken. And so I want to thank our federal employees who have been so courageous, that they are showing up even today, because these, again, are patriots who believe in our country, who believe in the American people. I want to thank them for their tireless efforts. I want to thank my colleagues also who are standing with us in this day. And I want to now call to the microphone Congressman Hoyer and ask him for his remarks. Thank you.
This is a sad day, but not a surprising day. It's a sad day because we are doing something that is stupid, harmful to the people who make our government work, who serve the American people every day. It is a sad day. It is a stupid day because this is costing the taxpayer a lot of money. It's costing individual federal workers and federal contractors economic pain and loss. But as Senator Alsobrooks said, and Senator Van Hollen said, it is not a surprising day. Why is it not a surprising day? I want to read you a few quotes, because lie after lie after lie is telling the American people Democrats want to shut down the government. Democrats are responsible. Remember, America, 4 years of Joe Biden. Democrats in charge of the House. Democrats in charge of the Senate. That's how many shutdowns we had. Zero. Zero shutdowns. Now let me read you some quotes. RNC leadership should not be afraid of government shutdown. September 18th, 2013, Donald Trump. Our country needs a good shutdown in September. Donald Trump, May 2017. If we close down the country, I will take it, because we're closing it down for border security. Donald Trump, December 11th, 2018. I will take the mantle of shutting down. I'm going to shut it down. Donald Trump, December 11th, 2018. So if it has to be shut down, I'll have it shut down. Donald Trump, September 26th, 2025. The Republicans have as a policy of leverage and force shutting down America's government. Newt Gingrich did it in 1995. It was done in 2013, again by the Republicans, and it was done again for 37 days. And what are we asking? Keep the government open. And by the way, make sure that Americans do not lose their health care. Make sure they're not confronted today, tomorrow, and the next day with premiums they cannot afford. Don't let American families be terrified by the fact that one of their family or themselves may get sick and they will not be able to pay. And for those of us who are not in that position, understand that every person who loses health care insurance and gets sick will not be able to pay the bill. And guess who's going to pay the bill? All of us. Because there'll be uncompensated care. And the hospitals have to keep the lights on. This is a sad day. But based upon the quotes that I have given you as the use of shutdown as policy by the Republican Party for a very long time now. And it just took them 9 months of this administration to do the same. We need to open this government. We need to open it tomorrow. But as Senator Van Hollen pointed out, the Republicans are not here. We had a caucus this morning. The room was filled with Democrats who were asking, how can we get the government open? How can we get the government open without forgetting those who are now able to have health care but who will not if we do not adopt an amendment which says we're going to continue to help you with your premiums, with your copay, with your affordable care. Speaker Johnson, the last time we had a shutdown vote, which we passed in a bipartisan way when Democrats were in charge, you voted no. So don't tell us that you want to keep the government open, because the last time you had an opportunity to do so, you voted no. And Mr. Scalise voted no. And Mr. Cole, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the House, voted no. Stop demagoguing on the American people. Stop demagoguing about federal employees. And Mr. Vote, stop saying you want to traumatize federal employees. Stop saying you want to shut down the government, which he said. Speaking specifically about EPA, but he said he wanted to shut down government spending. How sad it is to have a party in charge of the House of Representatives and of the United States Senate that wants to shut down the people's government so that they can have political gain. A sad but not surprising day. And now let me yield to my dear friend, one of the senior members of the House of Representatives, Congressman Kweisi Mfume of Baltimore.
Thank you very much, Steny, and thanks to this entire delegation for staying together the way we do and for speaking out as we must. A couple of things. There's some deliberate redundancies here because the problem is very, very simple. The problem is Donald Trump. I want to thank those federal workers who have come out from various unions, who stand here with us. They are not here for form or fashion. They are here because they are patriots. They get up every day and put on their clothes and go into buildings and work to deliver services for Americans all over this country, and they don't ask, are you Democrat or Republican? They provide the service. Theirs is the untold story. And to all those who claim now to have this Christian right movement, let me give you a quote that you should go back and review. It says, when you have done it to the least of these, you have also done it unto me. And the least of these are federal workers who can't control this situation. The least of these are mothers who are trying to feed babies, now facing new cuts. The least of these are seniors who've given their lives to this country, many of whom have served in our armed forces. That's the least of these. Many are living paycheck to paycheck. So give me a break, Donald Trump, and Mr. Voigt, and all the others who have this holier-than-thou attitude. We know what's best for you. No, you don't. You don't know what's best for these federal workers, and you sure as hell don't know what's best for the Maryland delegation. We will continue to fight you at every turn, in every instance, and in every way. This is about the sort of thing that you read about that you say could never happen in America. Want to see something? Senator Alsobrooks will confirm this. There's a big flag of Donald Trump hanging from the Labor Building. The Labor Building. A huge flag with his likeness on it. That's ego. That's being vindictive, and that's an in-your-face kind of attitude. Now, the bottom line is that this was all avoidable. We know that. We have to keep saying that because they make it seem like it was inevitable. It was avoidable. All it took was a willingness to discuss, to negotiate, to share thoughts and ideas, to get through this 7-week period with this resolution without hurting people in the process. But that was not enough. They wanted to find a way instead to stick it to Americans. And so it's a continuing resolution now that finds a way to increase many of the terrible experiences that people are having by increasing the pain. It wasn't that tough to be able to do 3 simple things: stop the cuts, lower the cost, and save health care in this nation. It was just a 7-week continuing resolution. But when you get on your horse, Donald Trump, and tell your compatriots, Mr. Speaker, that it's okay to go your own way, go have a holiday, go have a vacation, go to Codell, do whatever you want to do. You don't have to worry about coming back to Washington. That was the message last week. So there was never any intention at all to try to find a way to work together. We want this government open, and we want Donald Trump and his minions to stop lying to the American public. This has nothing to do with illegal aliens. Nothing. There's already a federal law that prohibits anybody in this country that's an illegal alien to be able to take any claims onto monies and benefits. We know that. We know that. And Donald Trump knows it. We've got to find a way to ask today good Americans, some of whom we will never meet. They are Democrats, they are Republicans, and they are independents. And they know right from wrong. They know when you impose an evil sort of wicked policy on people, it hurts them. I mentioned women before who are trying to feed babies. When a baby cries at night, that baby is not crying in black or white or Latino. That baby is crying in hunger. That baby is crying in pain. When senior citizens reach the point where they can no longer do anything except rely on their Social Security checks and Medicaid and Medicare, they're not doing that for form or fashion. They're doing it because of a solemn promise we made to all of them, that as the greatest, wealthiest, most powerful, most influential nation on the face of the earth, that they would never have to worry about that. And yet they do worry about it last night, and they are worrying about it today. So I want to just thank this delegation for its steadfast resistance to the foolishness that we see coming out of the White House, and to ask decent Americans, no matter what your party affiliation, no matter where you are in this country, put yourself in the roles of these people who are federal workers who are standing behind us. Put yourself in the role of those persons who are living paycheck to paycheck. Put yourself in the position of having an opportunity to make an influence and to change things. Call your representatives all over this country and tell them to do the right thing. Don't buy the hype, because the hype is for fools. I want to, if I might, bring forward somebody who needs no introduction, the chairman of or ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, and one who has always stood strong and steadfast against wrong in this country, and a voice for those that I talked about earlier who need a helping hand. Please welcome Congressman Jamie Raskin.
Thank you, Kweisi. That's beautiful. Thank you, Congressman Mfume. I'm delighted to be here with my colleagues from the Maryland delegation who showed up yesterday to work, who showed up today to work, who are going to show up tomorrow to work, and are going to keep working to make sure that the American people get their health care and that our government reopens as quickly as possible. Because this is an outrageous situation. And I want to thank all of the federal and state and local workers who come out to manifest their concern about what's just happened. And it's hot down here today on Capitol Hill, but I'd like to say it's not the heat, it's the stupidity. And we're seeing a lot of that coming from the White House and from our Republican colleagues. This is day one of the Republican shutdown. It's day one, but it follows up on 9 months of their efforts to dismantle government services and government programs and the federal professional civil service. They have sacked air traffic controllers at the FAA. They have sacked firefighters from the U.S. Forest Service. They have sacked cancer researchers and epidemiologists at the NIH. They have sacked food and drug safety inspectors at the Department of Agriculture and at the Food and Drug Administration. They have sacked people fighting for consumers at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. All of it now culminating in this effort to shut down the government of the United States, which every Democrat voted to stop in the U.S. Congress. Every single one of our colleagues voted against this outrageous culmination of their plans. This is a healthcare shutdown as they've stripped millions of people of their Medicaid health insurance going forward indefinitely into the future, which is why we've got to stand and fight. They've stripped millions of people of ACA tax credits that they need in order to pay their premiums and get health protection for their families. They've caused everybody's healthcare costs to go up, which is why we say cancel the cuts, lower the costs, restore healthcare to the American people. This is also an Epstein shutdown, and make no mistake of that. One of the reasons why our colleagues have been absent from work this week is because they did not want to swear in our new colleague, Adelita Grijalva from Arizona, which would have created, guess what, the magic number, 218 signatures on that discharge petition so we can get the bill out on the floor to demand the complete and total release of all of the Epstein files. So they don't want to swear her in, so they're not coming to work. Another impetus for their shutdown against the American people. And we demand complete accountability. We ask for nothing there more than Donald Trump asked for, than Kash Patel asked for, than Pam Bondi asked for. They all said they wanted them released. Then they had 1,000 FBI agents working around the clock. And guess what they saw? Donald Trump's name apparently all over the files. And they came back and said, nothing to see here. We're going to sweep it under the rug. Call off the talking points, everybody. Now we want to cover up the Epstein files. We're not going to allow them to do that. When we get back to work, we're going to reopen the government. We are going to resume health care for the American people, and we're going to release the Epstein files. We're going to do it all. We've got two different public philosophies of government on view this week in Washington, D.C. The Democratic caucus in the House, the Democratic caucus in the Senate say the government must be an instrument for the common good of the people. We must meet the needs of the people. And on the other side, we've got a philosophy which says government is an instrument for private self-enrichment and money-making for the guy who gets in and his family. And they've made billions of dollars since this nightmare began in January. We've got to reject that public philosophy. We got to put these honorable federal workers back to work, and we've got to make the government again in service of the American people. Is Glenn here or no? It is my honor to now introduce our new colleague from the 3rd District of Maryland, Congresswoman Sarah Elfreth, who's been such a strong voice for the people of her district. Please welcome Congresswoman Elfreth.
Good afternoon. First, I want to echo my colleagues' thanks, not just for the union leaders behind me, but every single federal government worker who is watching at home. We know that you don't hear thank you at all from this administration. Know that the Maryland delegation appreciates your service to this nation, appreciates the services that you deliver each and every day for Americans across this country. Yes, Maryland is acutely and disproportionately impacted by any federal government shutdown, but the folks who are not able to work today are delivering services for Americans across this country. So thank you, first and foremost. Second, I want everybody at home to know that we, the Maryland delegation, we are at work today, we were at work yesterday, we are at work on Monday. We have been here each and every day trying to find a deal to keep government open, to reopen government today, but not at the expense of 20 million Americans who are due to have one of the largest increases in their health insurance costs on January 1st if Congress does not act. And I just want to talk about this notion now, even though we have been here Monday and Tuesday pre-shutdown, the Speaker does not want to negotiate during a shutdown. He's had, as been said, weeks, months to negotiate this. We've known this has been coming since March. And so we cannot do this at the expense of folks who are going to wake up on January 1st, in Maryland at least, with a 13% on average increase for their health insurance. And we all know how important that is, especially in the midst of the affordability crisis too many of our constituents are experiencing, not just in healthcare, but as has been said, at the grocery store, when you open up your BG&E bill every month, when you try to find childcare for your family so you can keep in the workforce. This is an affordability crisis, and 271 days into this Congress, we have yet to address it head on. And we cannot wait 7 weeks to take a vote on extending these ACA tax credits, because insurance companies are sending those letters about January 1st today, on October 1st. We have to act, and that's what we are standing for. Now, everybody here was elected to do something. We were elected to make the lives of our constituents and Marylanders and Americans better. But they also elected not to leave anybody behind when we didn't have to. And so we need to stay focused on those 20 million Americans, 190,000 Marylanders who are impacted if Congress does not act on these ACA tax credits. And we will reopen the government when we get that deal. And that's what's on the line here. I also want to let everybody know that we are working, our offices are working. Please reach out to us. We will be answering every phone call, responding to every single email to be there for you. And as been said, we are disproportionately impacted, which is why Senator Alsobrooks and my colleagues have introduced a bill ensuring that if the Republicans in Congress were here, maybe we'd move on this bill. But ensuring that if you are an essential employee and you are working today and not being paid, you would be eligible for the unemployment insurance that you've spent your career paying into. Right now, you cannot get that. And more than half of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and we are leaving them behind in this moment if we do not act. So I want to thank Senator Alsobrooks for being my partner in that piece of legislation, everybody behind me for keeping focused on delivering services for the American people. And thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it back over to Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, thank you to this great federal team, Maryland. Thank you all for standing strong to reopen our government and stand up to Donald Trump. And again, thank you to all the federal employees who are here. We're happy to try and answer any questions. Tom.
Senator Van Hollen, you mentioned Russell Vogt and OPM. President said directly in the White House the other day that if shutdown happens, they can do some things that Democrats will not like. Do you see that as an empty threat or a promise he's going to follow through on to just outright fire federal workers?
I see that as more of the mafia-style tactics that this president and this lawless administration have been engaged in since day one. I want you to think about what started happening back in January. They started shutting down parts of the federal government. They just shut down the parts of the federal government they don't like. I mean, you have a Secretary of Education who says her mission is to close the Department of Education. And that's what they've been doing. And they have been illegally firing federal employees since day one. Now, what they're saying is, well, we're in a shutdown, we're going to fire more people. I want you to understand this on two levels. Number one, a shutdown gives President Trump no more authority to fire people than when we're not a shutdown. In fact, when you're in a shutdown, there are more restrictions on the president's ability to fire people. Now, of course, we're dealing with a lawless administration. But I want you to think about the other part of what they're saying. They're saying they want to reopen the government, at least that's what they're claiming, because they don't want to deny the American people important services. That's our position. And then at the same time, they're saying they're going to fire federal employees who provide the American people with important services, and they're going to do it permanently and permanently deny the American people those important services. This is gratuitous cruelty. And I think people see through it. And I also think the American people will grossly resent a president who tries to use federal employees as his pawns and the American people as his pawns, because the American people will be the big losers.
What's going to happen to undocumented immigrants on Medicaid in California? Are they going to lose benefits?
Again, the federal Medicaid program does not provide coverage to people who are here illegally. Neither do the ACA tax credits. So no, this is no. This is a big lie being perpetrated by Republicans because they know the American people don't want to see increases in their health care costs or lose their health care coverage. So what they want to claim, and it is a big lie, is that this is for people who are here illegally. Big lie. You know they're losing when they're lying.
Some Republican senators are saying that they are willing to talk about the ACA subsidies at a later date, just not now when it comes to passing a spending bill. And they see that Democrats should have these conversations, but at a later date. What do you see?
We've seen this play before. These are always empty promises, empty statements. The only person that counts in this negotiation on the Republican side is Donald Trump, because all the Republican senators and the House members, they've essentially given Donald Trump a blank check. They are a rubber stamp for Donald Trump. We refuse to be rubber stamps for Donald Trump, but that's what they're doing. So if Donald Trump wants to negotiate in good faith and address this issue of the crisis in healthcare, which they largely helped cause in their so-called big, beautiful bill, but if they want to talk about it, that's what we've said we want to do. But he hasn't been serious.
Do you think that is the ultimate off-ramp for ending a shutdown is talks on ACA and the subsidies with the White House?
We want to talk about the issues that are in our bill to keep the government open. That's what we want to do. And we've been wanting to do that for a very long time, as my colleagues pointed out. For months. Republicans have refused to do so.
I'm sorry,
Yeah. I'm going to allow the rest of it.
Let me say something. I just want to remind you of something. Last year, we never passed appropriation bills. We never passed an omnibus. We never passed policies that were very important to do so, other than cutting billionaires' tax cuts. We did that. And what did we do? We simply reiterated the policies of 2024 and a CR that wasn't passed until 8 months after the fiscal year began. So to say we'll talk about something later, we don't have much confidence in that, because we have not had any of that discussion over the last 9 months.
Senator Alsobrooks, Kate Amar from WDAL-TV, you were a county executive in Prince George's County, which has to have, if not one of the highest concentration of federal workers living there during the last and longest government shutdown. So you've seen this from both sides. Can you speak to what you're hearing, what you heard then, what it was like for your constituents in 2019, and what you're hearing from constituents now?
So you're absolutely right. I served as county executive when the last shutdown started. I had just been elected in 2018. And by the way, I'm the only member, freshman member of the Senate who was an executive. And so my experience is that I have been very close to the people who suffer as a result of the Republican shutdown. And that shutdown, that was Donald Trump's shutdown. This is another of Donald Trump's shutdown. And you're right, it has profound impacts on people. And so we work, as we are going to do this time with United Way and others, to make sure that people have the resources that they need. But we recognize that this does have real life consequences, and it's the reason that we don't take this lightly at all. And again, the Republicans have not only caused the pain and suffering today, but as has been mentioned, this has happened over a 9-month period. The people who have been traumatized as they designed it to be, who have gone to work each day not knowing whether or not their computer would be shut on or shut off. These are the people who have been maligned, the people who, by the way, provide critical services, who have watched research and science be gutted in our government, the ones who are now concerned about the reemergence of measles and hepatitis and these other illnesses that we know kill children but are completely preventable. So these are the people who, nonetheless, this administration have decided to attack and to fire. And it is absolutely atrocious. It really is, and our country will pay for what they are doing in this moment.
Maryland has faced one of the highest number of cuts for federal workers. Are you worried? We were talking about 15,000 federal workers and counting. Are you not worried about the idea that this kind of bargain will hurt Marylanders more in a way that can't be undone?
This is exactly why we're fighting to reopen the government as we speak. As I said before I came out here the first time, Republican senators voted against our proposal to keep the government open without giving Donald Trump a blank check. And our colleagues have all talked about how the fact that for the last 9 months, Donald Trump has taken a chainsaw to the federal government and federal employees and important federal services for the American people. Chainsaw is not my metaphor. That was Elon Musk's metaphor.
It was a real change.
So, of course, we are very focused on the impact on federal employees and on federal contractors and on the important services that they provide for the American people who are going to be losing out the most at the end of the day. It's also why, as we work to reopen the government, we are working to ensure that there are services that are there to help people who are in need. And the best way to deal with that, of course, is to reopen the government. But in the meantime, we are looking for ways to ease the pain. Let me turn it over to Jamie.
I want to say, I've got more than 50,000 federal workers in my district, in Maryland's beautiful 8th congressional district. The overwhelming number of federal workers I've heard from have been telling me, and I believe my colleagues have had the same experience, we must hang tough for the health care rights of the people. And I'm hearing that from federal workers across the government. They understand that the fallacy that was invoked by one of your colleagues who said, well, they're saying that if they close the government, they're threatening they're going to fire more workers. Well, first of all, there is no additional legal authority they get to fire anybody by virtue of being in a government shutdown. That's number one. Number two, the law has not stopped them from illegally firing hundreds of thousands of people so far. They've been doing it from the beginning. Illegal firings, illegal layoffs. They are now in court saying that the civil service itself is unconstitutional. They're saying that the civil service, which protects all of the federal workers against being fired for political reasons, is unconstitutional because it interferes with the president's Article 2 power to employ and to discharge whomever he wants. So we understand we are in a fundamental struggle here over the nature of American democratic government. And we're not going to fall for silly arguments like that. They've been firing people illegally from the beginning. And if they continue to do it, we will be in court first thing the next morning with our documents to get people their jobs back.
All right, we're going to take just a few more. Yes.
Your district, for people who don't know, you represent people in Anne Arundel County and Howard County, Maryland, a very unusual and wide array of federal jobs. The Naval Academy, you got Fort Meade, I mean, you have every stripe of federal employee you could have. What are you hearing from them, and what do you want them to know, the people who aren't getting paid today?
Yeah, like my colleagues, and I completely agree, whether it's on the phone, people calling us or emailing us, or even in the grocery store just the other day, people are asking us to stand strong. As Congressman Raskin just said, this is not the first struggle our federal workers have dealt with in this administration. This is 270-ish days of this struggle. And so they are asking me to stand strong and stand up for their jobs, but also the health care of all Americans.
All right, thank you. We can take two more.
Sir,
That's it. Yeah.
You said that the only Republican opinion that matters in this situation is President Trump's. Are congressional Democrats trying to negotiate more directly with the president? And how does that, let's say, perspective affect your negotiations with, your legislative colleagues?
Well, they tried, of course, the other day at the White House, and the president was apparently oblivious to this ticking time bomb that's going to go off on people's health care costs. Maybe the message got through, and maybe they'll begin to think about it. But right now, as all of my colleagues have said, we've made our position very clear. We look forward to talking to them if they're ever serious about talking with them. But we have been crystal clear that we're not going to give a blank check to a lawless president. We've all talked about what he has done to date, trampling on the rights of Americans, undermining our democracy, undermining our Constitution. And so there's a whole lot at stake here. We want to open the government, but we also want to make sure that the president doesn't have that blank check going forward. And I want to thank all of you very much for being here. I don't know if my colleagues have any closing thoughts. If not, thank you all. We can do one-on-ones for people who are here. Thank you all, and thank you to our federal employees.